Hello, everyone. This is Adam Weskerdis. Thank you for joining us for the Sage Intacct presentation specifically for community action agencies. I'd like to make a quick introduction. Uh, Again, my name is Adam Weskerdis. I am a CPA by background, have been working with nonprofits and government organizations for over a decade now, and specifically have converted several organizations to the solution that we'll be looking at today called Sage Intacct. Alongside with me is Cons Skembos, also represents Sage as well, and he is an account manager, can answer questions with the product and additional information, and also Sherry Simmerman as well. One of the things we're seeing today is there's a lot of conversations about moving to a cloud-based software, and Sage Intacct is just that, and I'll show it in just a moment here. But one of the biggest benefits of this solution is its ability to work with other software platforms that you may be using in your organization. So in a lot of cases, there might be a third-party payroll system that you want to integrate into the general ledger. There might be a fundraising or donation software that you want to integrate. Maybe there's expense tracking softwares that you want to integrate. And these all seamlessly flow directly back and forth between the multiple cloud solutions. So it's really a best-in-class financial package and really powerful underneath the hood with their open API capabilities. So without any delay, we'll go ahead and dive in here directly into the product. That's what we're here for. Let me toggle over and we'll take a look at the solution itself. What you're seeing here is the Sage Intacct Cloud Accounting Financial Solution. And before I even start showing anything, up here at the very top, you'll notice this is running in the web browser. So you can log in with your email address. Everything is secure and protected automatically for you. Updates are automatic. Every time you log into the system, you're on the latest, greatest. And anything in terms of document storage, failover and redundancy, system hardening, all of that is baked into the platform itself. So we're going to kind of work from the top down in this system. And one of the things you'll hear me say quite often about Sage Intacct is it's highly configurable. And when I mean that is literally things can just drag and drop and arrange on the screen. I can do that with menus on the navigation. I can do that on entry screens as well. So again, no technical expertise needed to make those adjustments. I can literally do it in real time as I'm working within the system. And right out of the gate, you'll notice dashboards and reporting are huge aspects of Sage Intacct's capabilities. One of the things I love about this solution is anytime there's a number or a financial metric that changes colors or that I want to see more information on, I can drill down and see the underlying details. And any type of financial report here, so here I'm looking at revenue and expenses by department. So as community action agencies, we're looking at maybe Head Start, school-based programs, housing, nutrition programs. It'll then automatically consolidate different programs automatically for me. And then maybe this is a solution where you want to empower other users throughout your organization. So you want to be able to monitor and see, are we on track for the budget for the month or the year? And these are also drillable as well. So as we kind of come out here, we're looking at the month of June in this case, for example. Maybe I'm looking at just that specific month's financial statement. It takes me directly to there. And now this is a report that is also hyperlinked and drill down enabled. So I can review whatever information I need to out here. I can see, if I've got a question on something, I'm able to click in for more information. So if I've got a question on the $66,000 transaction, it takes me to the underlying source transactions, we call it. So in this case, there were 4 journal entries and 1 accounts payable bill that rolled up into this 5203 consulting fees account. And you'll notice here as well, I can drill down one step further. And in this case, we'll drill into the accounts payable bill. And within 3 clicks, I'm now down to the source level transaction. And this was exactly as it was entered into the system, including an audit trail of all approval processes that were in place, and also a hyperlink to the payment method and information as well. So in this case, just kind of looking at a high level view here, we can see that this bill had been paid in full. There's a hyperlink to the payment method, so whether you pay by paper check, ACH to the bank, an auto withdrawal, credit card, those are all available in the system and can be recorded accurately. Kind of some high-level information about the transaction itself, so document number, descriptions, internal notes, terms. And then the real heart of the program, the meat and bones, is really in what's called the table-driven chart of accounts. And this is pretty unique to Sage Intacct. Each of these fields on the grids are ways that community action agencies can slice and dice their data and make it relevant for them. So in a lot of cases, we're tracking maybe things down to the program and department level. Maybe you cover a couple different counties and you want to track that. Maybe you have different funding sources that you need to tag and classify for drawdown type grants. Maybe you've got different locations. Maybe you've got restricted funds for the FASB 117 reporting. Those are all different ways that you can slice and dice your financials. You can add additional fields out here if there's more granular information you'd like to track, such as maybe there's events that you want to record. Maybe there's a particular manager or employees you want to track. Those can also be aggregated into the system as well. So that's kind of the unique thing about this system. But let me, while we're here, point out a few other nice to haves. One of the main things we hear a lot of organizations looking to go to is they're trying to become more paperless. They don't want all these papers floating around. They want to decrease their email correspondence and have things documented directly in the system. So within Sage Intacct, you can document pretty much on any screen throughout the system. There's an attachment with a paperclip here. And as long as it's a Windows-based file that will render in the browser, PDF, a JPEG, could be a Word document, Excel workbook, etc., it'll pull up directly on the screen or load locally to interact with. So again, I can review the information here specifically as I'm working on this transaction. And then last but not least, also very unique to Sage Intacct, is down here at the bottom of most of the screens, whether it's for transactions or vendors or customers or grantors and funders. This is what they call Collaborate. And it's really an instant messenger system where you can have communications back and forth without having to resort to an email or a phone call or something like that. So I can come out and I can tag other users within the system. Their name will appear here with a tag. They can add in their comments, and then they receive an email alert directly to the screen that I'm working on where they can take their review and action. So extremely powerful tools just built right in to the underlying system. One other thing that organizations like that for community action agencies in comparison to other systems that I've worked with in the past is the ability to reclassify transactions. So as long as the month hasn't been closed and it's still open and for that accounting period, I'm able to come back in and I can reclassify the transactions if there was an error in the coding. So again, very easy to make those changes as well. That is permissions based, so if that makes you a little nervous, that's fine. You don't have to enable that, but it is a nice feature that Sage offers. So kind of closing out of this, bringing it back full circle, literally within 3 clicks on one chart and graph, we have gotten to the source level information. So if I'm in a board meeting and I need to reference something and they have a question, or think about all the time that you can save when a manager emails you and you need to provide details. All of that is all at your fingertips. So I kind of pointed out here, this is on the CFO dashboard. I can have as many dashboards as I'd like, showing more or less detail. Each of these little widgets can get pinned, but these are all drillable as I expand and collapse them. So if I want to see what my cash balance is at a certain point in time, I can look at that. I can see my expenses. If there's anything that's over budget and maybe needs my attention, I can put indicators out there. I can do pie charts if I want to see more details in terms of the components of my organization. And then I'll kind of introduce a new concept here. It also has the ability to track non-financial metrics. So maybe there are things like classes or attendees or volunteers that we want to be able to track. We can store non-financial values. Maybe that comes from another system in here. And then we're able to report on it in the charts and graphs or even do ratio reporting as well. So very powerful information. As I kind of work down here, again, there's other reports and things that I could look into. Like I mentioned on the transaction itself, down here in the bottom right, I've got pinned my collaboration board. So I can come out and see, any comments that I've had activity on that I need to take action on. I can drill down back directly to those. If I'm somewhere else in the software, it also puts it up here in my chat bubble, so I can come out and take direct action there as well. So that's the collaborate feature. And then over here on the left-hand side, I can also have what we call workflow activities taking place within Sage Intacct. So in this case, I've got the purchasing module set up, and I can submit things throughout my organization for approval before things are purchased, and I can indicate whether they've been received and apply the invoice against them for the three-way match. I might have journal entries that are prepared by a staff accountant and they need to be reviewed by the controller or someone else before they're posted. I can have those types of workflows turned on. Anytime I want to see more details of these, it's as simple as coming up to the magnifying glass. It takes me directly to whatever transactions are in my queue for approval. So in this case, I have 3 purchasing transactions waiting my attention, and I can come out and view the underlying details. I can approve them all in bulk, or I could also then comment back if there's something that needs to be corrected, and that will send an email alert back to the originator or the previous person in the process to then take corrective action and resubmit. So a lot of different flexibility there, and that's all available directly in the system. So at this point, this financial dashboard is looking at everything in a particular department. If I wanted to say, you know, I only want to look at things in the Head Start department or maybe in the housing department or program, I can make that simple change, click apply, and all of the numbers, the charts, and the graphs and the reports are going to refresh in real time depending upon the filters that I have. Maybe I want to look at things at just a particular location, so maybe I have a county that I want to focus in on. I can do that as well. Maybe there's a certain funding source that I want to focus on as well. I can do that here too. So again, all of that is very flexible and in real time. Just as another example, I can have a more detailed controller dashboard. I can open the system up to non-finance folks as well. So maybe there are managers that need to log in and review things. They're able to do that as well. I can also set up a month close dashboard or checklists in the system. So as an example here on my main page, I've got different checklists for the month close process, kind of documents things and keeps them out of Word documents or Excel and make sure things are on track. So in this case, I'm still working on closing the month of April. I can come out and see who's completed certain tasks, who's responsible for them. So who's going to post the payroll entries, who's going to run the allocations. A lot of our community actions agencies use that module, and they're able to come out and then either add attachments and dates as well, so you can see how quickly you're able to do month end. So a lot of flexibility there that you're able to operate with. So these dashboards can look very different. Here's kind of the month close example here. Maybe I've got reminder notes that I need to put out here. Maybe I've got different assignments, or I can see what modules have been closed if I don't want people to go back and post into last month's accounts payables. I'm able to close all of that off. So let's introduce a couple things here. You'll notice the navigation bar up here at the top. Just some quick wins is there is a universal search feature, so I can search by dollar amount, a description, a name of a vendor. I can focus in on just certain parts of the application to speed up the search process. So that's a really nice feature. There are favorites out here. So if there are actions that I take routinely, I can use the little star here. It'll pin it to my main page. When I say the system is highly customizable, that literally means, again, drag and drop on these screens. And then I can also do the same thing with bookmarks. Maybe there's a certain transaction or steps I want people to follow. I can build out a workflow process over here and build bookmarks. Okay. So let's look at the application menu for the first time. As a community action agency, anything from the grants module and up is included as a part of what Sage Intacct calls core accounting. So I will have access to all of those modules, whether I have a need for all of them, or maybe there are things that I want to grow into over the years that I start to use the system, and that's totally okay. One area that is built in is native report writing directly in the browser. So in the report center, the system comes with over 150 reports out of the box. A lot of the customers that I work with kind of use that as a starting point, and then they build their own or modify them to their liking. So you'll notice here the list just kind of goes on and on and on for the type of organization that I am. And the stars here indicate those are reports that I use most often. So typically when I'm navigating out here, I'm going directly to my favorites. And then I've got the 10 to 20 reports that are just at my fingertips. So let's take a look at a report itself. Again, I mentioned the report writer is directly in the browser, so it doesn't need a third-party tool like a Crystal Reports or some other report writer. There is no, you don't need an Excel add-in of any sort as well, so this is all just in real time. To run a report, I can just run it directly in on the screen. Again, every single number that you see here appearing in blue is drill down and hyperlink enabled. Also, on the fly, if I need to see more detail, you can create your own account grouping. So I've got expenses with more aggregate personnel cost, operating cost, other expenses. I can expand and collapse these on the fly to see the underlying general ledger detail. So now I see even more information here. And again, every single number I could drill down and see the details. And that's true of actual transactions and also budget information, which I can touch on in just a moment here. The report writer itself is all point and click driven. So again, I can drag and drop things with the mouse here in different orders. I can relabel things. I can add columns on the fly. So maybe I want to say, you know what, I need to add last month's actual, or maybe I want to add last year's actuals. I can do that as well. And I can see the date ranges on the fly when I'm running reports. So maybe I want to run it for last year. The power of the system is kind of really right in this one area when it comes to the dimensionalized or table-driven chart of accounts. That is, any of the ways that you want to slice and dice your data, meaning by programs or by the locations or by the funding sources or by the employees, you're able to basically do a pivot table on any of the reports in that manner. So maybe I want to see all of the program activity. Literally with that one change on one report, it's now taken the actual column and split it out by all of the different reporting areas that I have within my organization. And it will automatically put out a total column for me there. And just like that, I've got a pretty interesting report, a real wide report in this case, with a lot of granular information. And again, every number is drillable. I can also expand and collapse sections on the fly. So a lot of different examples there. There's more about reporting that I could get into in terms of formatting, applying filters, but I would like to point out two other reports that a lot of our community action agencies will need and like. One is the ability to do forecasting reports. So you can put in your budget. You can have multiple budgets throughout the year. In this case, I've closed through the month of May, so I've got 5 months of actual, 7 months of budget activity, and it will then present my year-end forecast, along with maybe referencing last year's actual and a variance of how this year might compare to last year. Again, all that information can be stored in the system. One other report is, again, a lot of organizations, when they have different grants, this is very difficult to get in other systems. But when I'm reviewing grants at a bird's eye level, I can drill down and see, I've got a grant budget loaded in the system or entered in the system. And the unique thing about this grant report is at the row level, I'm able to have different time frames that may not coincide with my fiscal year. So for example, I've got this grant that's maybe runs for 2 years. And maybe I've got another grant that also runs for a different time period. I'm able to store a lot of that kind of demographic information related to the grant directly on the report itself. Again, everything is drillable. So if I needed to make a change on this moving forward grant, maybe there's a different manager that's responsible for it. Maybe it has to renew for next year. Maybe there's a contract associated with it. I can literally drill down into that chart, update, or into the grant code itself on the report and update that information. Okay. I can store things like federal grant information. Who's responsible for it? Is it a reimbursable grant? Does it always get coded a certain way? Is there a contract on it? Again, all of that was literally one click away on the details of those reports. Any report can then be pinned to a dashboard, printed to a PDF, exported to Excel, or emailed as a PDF or Excel to even users outside of the Sage Intacct system. So a lot of flexibility. Okay. So we kind of touched on the reports there. Now, again, in terms of the database structure itself, the underlying accounting utilizes what are called dimensions. So these are all the ways that I can slice and dice my data on the reports. So maybe I want to, again, look at things at the program level. One thing that's unique about this system is the ability to use parent-child roll-ups. So I might be able to say, I want to run a report at just the development level, and I can see all of the codes underneath of that, or maybe I want to see just the blue dot information. I can create these groupings very easily on the fly, making reports much easier to run, or from a security standpoint, controlling who can see what information. This also can influence how allocations are run. So maybe I've got shared pool costs or overhead costs that I need to allocate at month end to my programs. I'm able to run a process in the general ledger to allocate cost after the fact. Okay, so I can do that. I can do that for different locations. So maybe I'm covering multiple counties, different cities. I can do that for different grants and funding sources. So here's maybe an example where I've got federal grants and I want to group those together for easy reporting. I'm able to do that as well. Okay. So that's kind of an overview. There's a lot more information I could talk through just in reports itself. I mentioned that budgets can be input into the system. Those can be uploaded to Excel. There's an advanced budget module where you can do it directly within Sage Intacct itself, and you can budget by personnel costs and allocations and spread their fringes. You can have managers participate in the budget process as well to fill out their related information. General ledger is pretty straightforward. I do want to point out you have the ability to import transactions from Excel as well. So typically on any activity screen, there's an import button up here at the top. And just to kind of give an example of what an import file looks like, the system comes with templates out of the box. So again, you don't have to be a technical guru to be able to import information. And all it looks at is kind of the header information here to bring that information in. Okay. So very flexible in that manner, and I can come out and import those transactions. Cash management includes the ability to, obviously and most basically, reconcile bank statements, checking accounts, savings accounts. You can also reconcile credit card type transactions, but where cash management has a few more features and capabilities is you can certainly pay vendors electronically. So you can generate an ACH file and pay that through your bank. You can utilize what are called bank feeds or bank transactions. So you can come out and look at a specific account. I'll just kind of show it here. And because this is a cloud application, it's able to sync with other outside external systems. So in this case, I can connect my bank account and it will automatically try to reconcile it every 4 hours for me and pull in new transactions. So again, there's a lot of flexibility there of connecting with those other systems. Purchasing and accounts payable work together. I'll just kind of show from a visual aspect here. All of these menu items and screens that I'm coming to, they do have an overview screen. So this kind of more visually as a graphical interface, I call these the swim lanes where you can kind of process through the steps. And it's not uncommon that organizations are striving to work towards a purchase order process or requisition process where they can say they're in compliance with their approvals, either from a dollar threshold standpoint or who's approving what. And so you can kind of see out here step by step, maybe employee users can submit requests out here and it needs to go to their manager for approval. Someone needs to price it. Maybe it needs a purchasing agent to go ahead and submit the order. Someone needs to receive it so that we're not paying for things that haven't come in. And then you can match up the invoice for compliance to say, yep, that's all we received, and we're going to go ahead and finalize the invoice and post it to accounts payable for the next pay run. So there's a whole workflow process kind of behind the scenes here to be able to process transactions through the Sage system. Again, has full accounts payable processes as well. I mentioned the ability to pay vendors electronically. You can print checks. You can pay by credit card. Full detailed reports over here as well. One of the more common requests we have is it also has the ability to do a positive pay file with your bank. So that's a security feature that we can enable and help you, get that set up and processed. All of the year-end tax reporting in terms of 1099s and 1096s can be run through the system as well and e-filed, so very efficient in that manner as well. Does have accounts receivable, so some organizations or community action agencies maybe don't have as much volume in that area, but maybe you're renting a space or have a miscellaneous billing, have the ability to enter that information. It'll generate statements and invoices on your behalf. You can design those and make them look the way you want to look, and you can then obviously apply payments as well directly in the system. So that's kind of the core accounting. We've touched on the ability to record grants. You can do grant billing throughout the system as well. So if you have reimbursable or drawdown grants where you're having to identify expenses, allowable expenses to the funding source, you're able to do that and then pull them in and do reporting off of those or generate the revenue and receivable off of those as well. It'll bundle all of the supporting documentation into one billing cycle and works very efficiently in that manner. And then kind of just touching on some of the more advanced modules here, it's not uncommon that community action agencies might need to track fixed assets. So could be large things like a vehicle, a building, equipment, but could be more granular, like maybe you're needing to track IT equipment. So what laptops are assigned to different individuals. Maybe I've got a construction project that's going on, and so I want to capture costs of that before placing the asset into service. Those are all able to be maintained directly in the system without having to go somewhere else for it. And then lastly, I kind of mentioned the ability to run allocations. Again, anything that's like an overhead cost where I want to spread things at month end, I can set up those tables, those calculations, those bases, and run a process, and I can have allocations that feed into other allocations. We call it the waterfall effect. That's fine. The beauty of Sage Intacct is all of that is then documented, captured as a snapshot and an audit trail in the system so that you can supply it then at the time of your audit if requested. So again, a lot of flexibility directly out of the box with Sage Intacct. Two other things here is I'd like to introduce one other aspect is with it being a cloud solution, it does utilize what's called the Sage Intacct Marketplace. Think of this like the app store for Sage Intacct. Any third-party software that's listed out here is plug and play, ready to go within Sage Intacct. So if you're looking at a new payroll system, there are some that are out here. Maybe others are using Bill.com. Those are all available to feed directly in through the internet and the API connection. And then lastly, I'd be remiss not to talk about security information that's important to us, and as a CPA, quite important to myself. Sage Intacct, they publish their security information publicly online. And there's a lot of documentation out here in terms of their processes, their failover redundancy, what their frequency is. But they also have information out here about what type of compliance they have. So SOC 2 is one of the biggest ones. They've got PCI compliance, so if you're storing, again, bank account information in the system, that's protected as well. So just lots of information that's available. So that was a real high-level overview. We've converted a number of organizations and community action agencies to Sage Intacct. It really is the future in terms of accounting for community action agencies. So I appreciate your time in joining me. I am going to flip back to the presentation here and kind of share my information if you were joining a little bit late. One of the reasons we are hosting this webinar is there are some promotions that are very favorable in this time frame for community action agencies, kind of leading into the end of this year. So if you'd like more information on that and have an interest, again, I encourage you to reach out to myself. Again, I'm there at the top, Adam, or you can reach out to Cons or Sherry as well with their contact information. Even if it's just providing additional details or you have some questions, we're able to answer those as well. So again, want to say thank you for joining me in this presentation today. Hope it was informational and beneficial, and look forward to connecting with each of you after the fact. Thank you so much, and have a great day.